breaking down the second round of the FCS playoffs. Championship season is here, so we're back on the Big Mountain to talk about the FCS playoffs. Hey, JY back here with the Big Mountain. I want to go down the second round of all of the FCS matchups. Let's start with number one, North Dakota State. They will play Illinois State. Of course, North Dakota State coming in 12-0 on the season. Illinois State, they beat Southeast Louisiana 21-3 in the first round. They come in 9-4. Of course, these are both Missouri Valley Football Conference teams. North Dakota State number one in that conference. Illinois State number 3. The losses here for Illinois State were North Dakota State earlier this year, Youngstown State, Southern Illinois, and from FBS, Oklahoma. I think the Bison here just way too much for Illinois State to handle. We saw that earlier this season. So my pick for this game, of course, is going to be the Bison. I think they roll into the third round. If you're a Bison fan or a fan of conference realignment, we're going to have another episode coming out later today about North Dakota State. There's some smoke happening right now, some new rumors going around with them possibly moving to FBS. So we'll do another standalone episode that talks about the Bison, some of these rumors, some of the things that we're hearing on the pod. We'll put that out in another episode later today. Let's get into number 2, Montana State. They play Yale. Montana State comes in at 10-2. Yale comes in at 9-2. Yale coming off that humongous second half comeback versus Youngstown State in the first round. Their 2 losses are to Lehigh and to Dartmouth. They did beat Harvard for the Ivy League title. The Bobcats of Montana State, they actually started the season 0-2. They lost to Oregon and they lost to South Dakota State, but they have been rolling ever since. Of course, they beat Montana 31-28 in the Big Sky final back on November 22nd, and this team is rolling. They are super hot right now. And while the Bulldogs here showed some grit, I got to go with the Bobcats. They're just far too impressive right now. They're playing some great football, so I'm picking the Bobcats to win this game. Let's get to the number 3 team, Montana. I was just talking about them with Montana State. Montana has a difficult matchup against South Dakota State. They're number 14 coming into this game. Montana being 11-1. Of course, that one loss to Montana State. Just talked about that. And South Dakota State is 9-4. The Grizz were perfect this season until that Big Sky Championship game where they did have that loss. South Dakota State, they lost 4 straight earlier this year. That included North Dakota State, Indiana State, South Dakota, and Illinois State. I think the Grizz are going to be too much here. They're playing some good ball. Too many question marks on that South Dakota side, so I'm picking the Grizz in this game. Number 4 team is Tarleton State. They play North Dakota. I think this is going to be one of the toughest matchups in the second round. Tarleton State coming in at 11-1. North Dakota sitting at 8-5. Yes, 5 losses, but a lot of very close losses within Missouri Valley. We know how stacked that conference is. The Texans here for Tarleton State, only 1 loss on the season. That was to Abilene Christian. They lost 31-28, so a very close loss. And we're going to get to Abilene Christian here in just a little bit. North Dakota had losses to Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, and from FBS, Kansas State. They lost that game 38-25. Of course, all of the FCS schools I just named, the 4 that they lost to, are still alive in the FCS playoffs right now. So it tells you how hard of a schedule North Dakota had. I'm going to take the Texans here, but I think this is a very, very close game, a very difficult first round for Tarleton State coming into these playoffs. I'll take the Texans, but I think this is a very difficult matchup. I think it'll be very close. Number 5 seed is Lehigh. They get the number 12 seed Villanova. Lehigh undefeated at 12-0. Villanova playing some good ball. They're 10-2. I think this is another close matchup. Nova beat Harvard in the first round 52-7. They have losses on the season to Monmouth and to Penn State. Of course, an FBS school there. Lehigh, they beat Yale 31-13 earlier this season. I'm going to go with Lehigh here. I think it's a close, probably within a touchdown type of game. I think it's another close one. But I'm going to go with Lehigh being that number 5 seed, but I think Villanova gives them one heck of a game. Let's go to number 6, Mercer. They're playing number 11, South Dakota. Mercer comes in 9-2. South Dakota comes in 9-4. The Mercer Bears are out of the Southern Conference. They had that weird no contest game to start the season versus UC Davis. They do have their 2 losses here. One is to FBS's Auburn. The other one is to Presbyterian. South Dakota beat Drake in round 1, beat them 38-17, and I actually like South Dakota here. I'm going to go with the 11 seed South Dakota to beat the number 6 seed Mercer Bears. Number 7 seed Stephen F. Austin versus the number 10 seed Abilene Christian. Stephen F. Austin is 10-2. Abilene Christian is 9-4. Of course, Stephen F. Austin out of the Southland Conference. They have losses already to Abilene Christian earlier on this season. That was back on September 6th. That score was 28-20, and they also lost to FBS's Houston. The Wildcats here beat Lamar 38-20 in round 1, and I like the Wildcats. I'm going to go with Abilene Christian. They already beat SFA once earlier this season. I think they're able to do it again. They're playing some really good football right now, so I'm taking that 10 seed, the Wildcats, to win this one. The last game to talk about, an 8-9 matchup, UC Davis versus Rhode Island. UC Davis sitting at 8-3 and Rhode Island sitting at 11-2. I mentioned that no contest game that UC Davis had versus Mercer to start the season. They did have some other losses. One was to FBS's Washington, and then 2 FCS losses, Montana State and Idaho State. Rhode Island, they beat Central Connecticut State 27-19 in round 1 in order to move here to the second round. The Rams have 2 losses. One is to Brown. One is to Western Michigan there in FBS. Western Michigan, really good team right now, playing for the MAC championship. And they can score some points here, can the Rams. I think this is a close game. I'm going to give the slight edge to the Aggies. UC Davis, they get this game at home. I think that'll be just enough, but I think this is another one of those very close games. I'm going to hedge towards UC Davis, but I can see Rhode Island winning this game as well. So as I said, we're going to do a North Dakota State discussion later on a separate pod. If you're interested in that, come back and check that one out. And we're going to be following the FCS playoffs throughout the entirety of the playoff season. We'll bring you an update here for the third round. I'll give you my picks as for who I believe will win the third round games, but we got some great ones here in the second round. So hey, I thank you guys for watching this. Smash that like button and subscribe if you like our content, and we'll see you next time on The Big Mountain.